CS greetings, CSGOers. I'm Extremes, and you're watching Axe Out Loud, where I speak to a camera at length about something that I care about and that I hope you, as the community, care about as well. I haven't done one of these for quite some time now. I've been busy doing interviews, my looking back features, various episodes of CSGO Deeper where we've analyzed tournaments and done things like that. So, really, no chance actually to do this sort of one-on-one, so to speak. I mean, whether it's a few hundred of you watch it or not, it kind of feels one-on-one. I'm just talking to the camera, and I guess you're the receiver. So what are we receiving today? The mixed company Screwjob. You probably don't know what I'm talking about, so let's get right into it. What's a Screwjob, first off? Well, I'm kind of referencing something in pro wrestling, which I think is quite interesting because I don't actually watch pro wrestling. I haven't since I was a kid, but I do know something about it. So to prove to my friends who do enjoy pro wrestling that I do actually know something about it, I guess they'll be quite interested in this title. So there was an incident that happened quite some time ago called the Montreal Screwjob, or the Montreal incident. It's quite infamous in professional wrestling circuits where the wrestler Bret Hart got screwed over by some actions that happened in the background. I won't go into the details. You can Google it and go and have a read about it. But I thought that the title is interesting, and it has some interesting parallels with what I'm going to talk about. So let me get right into this. Mixed company of a team who qualified for the ESL Africa League, beating a Masters team, Veneration, which is quite a feat, one would think. I mean, normally an unknown team qualifying for a big tournament over a more fancied opponent would be a cause for celebration. I mean, hey, it's the arrival of a new force on the scene. But based on some things I'd heard about certain players, going on in the background, I was immediately suspicious. I contacted the local ESL guys for the team roster, as the website didn't actually list it at the time. And within a couple of days, this is what I got. A lineup of Convict, Custom, Black Hammer, Puffy, and Spartan. So those are, I mean, how do I frame this for you guys? There was no WRG listed that particular week. And Puffy and Black Hammer, I'm assuming Black Hammer is lighters. I'm 100% certain, in fact, that it's lighters. WRG weren't listed in that particular week. They'd played the week before because there were 2 weeks of qualifiers. Just to frame this, the qualifier was last week. I'm recording this on Sunday, the 7th of May. And then APG actually forfeited at the same time as this team mixed company played, and Convict, Custom, and Spartan are an APG. The implications are clear here to me, but if they're not clear to you, there will be once I've explained this a little bit more. Again, Lighters and Puffy are both players currently contracted to WRG. Convict, Custom, and Spartan are all contracted to APG. So that's White Rabbit Gaming and Aperture Gaming. So I managed to get a hold of a copy of the ESL rules, and the version I've got I think is a little older. I should probably not have access to this, but I do have it. And point 1.1, the very first rule in the rule book says, an ESL African Championship participant is a team or player that is participating in the ESL African Championship competition. Any member of a ESL African Championship team is a participant of that team only and is locked to that team regardless of whether or not the player had played for said team. In other words, whether you played at all or not played at all, if you were submitted as part of a particular team, that's the team you're in, barring again roster changes and transfer windows and all sorts of things like that. And of course none of that happened. Let's delve a little bit into the backstory here for you guys. I've spoken to sources close to both teams, and assuming their stories haven't magically aligned by some crazy coincidence, or that the several people I spoke to aren't involved in some massive conspiracy to make sure that they somehow all have the same story, it must be the truth that what I've actually gotten from them. Through multiple confirmations, it must be true. What one would imagine. Just grab a drink of water quick. Wow, I don't have the breath for this anymore. I haven't done this in such a long time. Apologies. WG hasn't been a happy team for some time. Since the addition of Lighters, something has been off with their team dynamics and their level of play. Before they looked like a team, they were sort of more than the sum of their parts. If you looked at the individual elements they had, they played as a team. They almost overperformed considering the personnel they had. But that's the definition of a team. You guys come together and you work well together. There's a synergy and you win because of it. Now they're looking a bit more like individuals, individual players, disjointed, not really functioning as a well-oiled machine anymore. Apparently, Leiders was trying to force his will on the team, overriding the IGL and just generally causing some discontent. And there was also some level of toxicity, from what I understand. At various points, he led efforts to kick players and replace them. I mean, this went on a few times, presumably with wanting to replace them with people that would more readily agree with him and maybe be on his side. And quite often this was happening without the actual permission of the owner. I do believe that sometimes the ownership of WRG were notified, but of recent times that hasn't happened. And again, it's happened several times. This has been going on for months with fans none the wiser. You guys probably don't know about this. The latest effort was to kick 2 players and replace them with Convict and Custom from APG. Apparently, this was initially without the permission of the APG management, and then later, when it was brought to the attention of the APG management, it was framed as with being, under the intention of these players subbing for WRG, which doesn't really make a tremendous amount of sense. Why would you sub for a competitive team in Masters? Bear in mind, these are both Masters teams. They're both top 8 teams in the country. Why would you do that when you contracted to one and go and sub for the other? Of course, this would have caused some ill feelings between the 2 MGOs, and as I understand it, this did actually happen. There was some ill feelings because they thought that each of the other was trying to poach players. I mean, I don't quite understand the dynamic there, but clearly you'd be upset if this happened without your knowledge as a team owner. When this was blocked, because the team owner's ownership eventually found out, Lighters led Puffy, Convict, Custom, and Spartan, also of APG, and I mean Puffy's of course of WRG, in creating a new team or MGO, which presumably is mixed company. The only rather glaring issue is that all those players are still contracted to their MGOs with release conditions in place that have as of yet not been met by these players. So until those conditions are met, they can't go anywhere. It's kind of strange, as I'd heard that Convict would never play with Lighters again after Lighters had been played a big role in pushing Zero Chance out of the 2016 APG lineup by supplanting him as the de facto leader, basically taking over his leadership role, and eventually it broke that lineup apart. And this was, of course, after Lighters was booted from BVD. The guy has a reputation amongst players as a bit of a team wrecker. What do you think? Is it a deserved reputation? To summarize here a little bit, Mixed Company was entered into ESL at the same time as WRG and APG, with those players contracted to those lineups which were submitted to ESL, with them being members of WRG and APG. As ESL structure is a little bit different to other online leagues, in other words, you actually get paid well, and paid well, might I add. I'm going to say it 3 times, paid well, for online placings. Remember, there's a 2 million rand prize pool. It's potentially cost 2 MGOs and the players that have been left out in the cold here the opportunity to make that money. There's a lot of money that's been left on the table here for these guys. Those teams would have been almost guaranteed to qualify. As somebody who watches and casts a lot of CS, I would definitely have ticked the box next to those names that they would qualify with the lineups and the personnel that they had. A lot of people have been screwed over by this. I think it wasn't necessarily ESL's fault in not picking up on this, as their team submissions only closed 2 hours prior to the matches, which is a very short window. And there's no way that ESL Germany staff, because also what I understand out of this, ESL Germany are actually the ones who handle the team submissions and stuff. There's no way those guys would have been expecting a scenario like this. I mean, it's just a little bit out of the ordinary, isn't it? I expect that ESL will move swiftly to rectify this now that they know about it, because I'm pretty sure they're going to know about it once this video comes out. So why the name Screwjob? Like the Montreal Screwjob, someone got screwed by this. Someone got screwed over by this. Unlike that scenario where it was only Bret Hart getting directly screwed, in this case it's a whole lot of people. Look at the information, you decide. Axe out.